Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm excited to welcome everybody to the 5th IRIS Prep Talk. These sessions are designed to introduce teacher education faculty to the OSEP-funded national centers. And as we get started, people are still logging in. I invite you to share your name, your role, and your university in the chat box so we can get to know you. And there are a few of us from the IRIS Center on the call today. I'm Sarah Simone, the Technical Assistance Coordinator. Joining me are Project Director Naomi Tyler and Product Development Coordinator Pam Lehman. And we'll be monitoring the chat throughout the session in case you have any questions or issues. Today's IRIS Prep Talk will introduce you to the National Center on Intensive Intervention. You'll be hearing from Lindsey Hayes, who is NCII's Educator Preparation Task Lead and a Technical Assistance Provider. She's going to share some helpful resources for incorporating intensive intervention practices into your courses and field experiences. And in case you're unfamiliar with the format of the prep talks, Lindsey's going to share resources with us for 15 minutes or so. And then there will be time for questions and discussion. At about 1:30 Eastern time, we will wrap up. I'll give you some final information, and then we'll keep the Zoom open afterwards to continue the discussion informally. We are recording the session to share with those who are unable to attend live, and our previous IRIS Prep Talks featuring Progress Center, AIM, Bookshare, Cadre, and the TIES Center most recently are up on our YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out if you haven't already. And while you're there, like and subscribe. We will post a recording of today's presentation, but not the group discussion afterwards, so you can share freely. As Lindsey presents, you're also welcome to post questions in the chat, and she'll answer them after the presentation. And now that we know the plan, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Lindsey from NCII.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Well, hello to my colleagues across the country. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Lindsey Hayes, and I'm the Educator Preparation Lead for the National Center on Intensive Intervention, also known as NCII. And as Sarah mentioned, my plan today is to tell you a little bit about the center and what we do and what kinds of resources we have available for teacher preparation faculty. So the mission of NCII is to build the knowledge and capacity of key education stakeholders to support implementation of intensive intervention for students with severe and persistent academic and behavioral needs. One of the key audiences that we are trying to reach through our center are faculty and professional development providers. So in other words, those who prepare educators with these skills. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach before I get into the resources. So when we talk about intensive intervention within the context of NCII, we are talking about intensive intervention that is addressing severe and persistent learning and behavioral difficulties for students who are within our MTSS system at the very top of the pyramid at Tier 3. So we're talking roughly about 3 to 5% of students who need those most intensive supports, and these supports are driven by data, and they're characterized by increasing intensity and individualization. Intensive intervention for this particular population of students is very, very important. We know that these students often need much more support than their peers to learn and retain new information. We know for students who are at that Tier 3 level of our MTSS system that often academic and behavioral needs are co-occurring. We know that the pandemic, in particular for this population of students, was very, very difficult. And we know that we need to have intensive intervention strategies ready for this population of students. So at NCII, the way that we approach intensive intervention is through a process called data-based individualization. Data-based individualization takes us through the process of intensifying interventions for students with these learning and behavioral needs. It starts with a strong Tier 2 standardized intervention program. From there, we progress monitor the student, and based on whether they are responsive or not responsive, take our next steps. If the student is not responsive, we need to take steps like performing diagnostic assessment and gathering diagnostic data, using that information to adapt interventions, delivering those interventions, and then once again, progress monitoring to determine student responsiveness. So the graphic on the right shows our data-based individualization approach. that again is deeply rooted in the concepts of progress monitoring, diagnostic data, and using this information to adapt interventions. And I want to talk about why teacher education matters for this. Those skills around identifying effective interventions, interpreting data, developing hypotheses about student needs, intensifying and individualizing interventions. These are specialized skill sets, and we need teachers who are prepared with these skills. So if we need teachers who are ready with these skills to reach these populations of students with severe and persistent learning and behavioral needs, then we need teacher education programs that are grounded in this DBI approach. They are practice-based and aligned with in-service expectations. So I'm going to take you through some of the faculty resources that NCII has available that can help strengthen coursework around intensive intervention for these teacher candidates. First things first, our main website is intensiveintervention.org. We have a landing page that is specifically for higher education faculty. So all of the resources that I'm about to share with you that are specific to faculty, there is a page where these are all organized for your convenience, and you can find that in the main menu with resource by audience. If I were new to the NCII resources and just approaching this for the first time, the place that I would start is our guide for teacher preparation faculty. It's a short brief intended to be a quick read, providing some basic information, explaining how teacher preparation faculty can incorporate NCII resources into your coursework. I recognize that across all of us, we're probably teaching candidates or possibly even in-service teachers who are at very different stages of their careers. Some of you might be teaching introductory courses or possibly methods courses where you're going deeply into a content area, perhaps an assessment course, and some of you might even be teaching clinical or practicum courses. This guide is organized around those 4 different types of courses and talks about how the NCII resources, some of which I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about, can be used within the context of those specific types of courses. So this is a great way to get some differentiated support and guidance toward various NCII resources based on what kinds of courses you're teaching. One of our main anchor resources is our intensive intervention course content modules. My goal in a very short amount of time is going to be to try to communicate to everyone just the depth of information that is here. I'm going to do my best. But really what these are ready to use content modules for faculty and professional development providers. If I were a faculty member who is teaching a new course, designing a new course, redesigning a new course, reworking old course content, this is where I would start, because within each of these areas, there is enough content to fill out a semester-long undergraduate or graduate level course. So I really do want to highlight the depth and breadth of information that is here within each of these areas. The 4 areas in which we have course content available are explicit instruction, math, reading, and behavior. And again, the sum total of all the materials that are available within these 4 areas really does equal pretty much a semester-long university level course. So I'm going to show you within each of those course areas some of the features we have that are available to help faculty. There's a course overview document that is very helpful as the foundation for what is essentially a syllabus. We make sure that within every module, we talk about how the content addresses Council for Exceptional Children standards. There's sort of an annotated bibliography and suggested reading list for all of these. And we make sure to link to additional NCII resources that correspond with the content area. For instance, if in the course content resources for faculty on math, we try to link out to any other available NCII resources we have on math. Each of our course content areas is subdivided into modules, and these modules follow the steps of the DBI process. So things like you're beginning with your foundation, a strong tier 2, developing a scope and sequence upon which you can build that tier 3 intensive intervention, going more deeply into things like progress monitoring, specific adaptations that you can make related to the content. I have an example here for math where you can see it dives deeply into concepts around things like whole numbers, rational numbers, things that are very, very content specific that we would expect to see in a methods course for teachers. I'm going to show you now an example within each of those modules, and roughly our courses are divided into about 6 to 8 modules each. There's a module landing page. Everything here is intended to be taken and used by faculty. It is completely customizable. So we have all of the lecture notes in a slide deck format, along with the workbook, which is all of the activities that you would be doing with your teachers. It's all here and all available for you to customize as you see fit. And furthermore, we made sure that within each of the modules, we were breaking down the content in those modules into bite-sized pieces. So we really tried to think carefully about how we could create short video clips of instruction where there actually is a faculty member delivering the content that's in those lecture notes and slide decks. It's broken up so that there are pauses where you can do activities with your pre-service teachers, and really try to break this down in a systematic way. This also allows you to take what you want to be able to supplement your courses and leave what you don't want. So again, the idea is to provide maximum amount of flexibility for faculty members to take the content they need to supplement their courses. And again, that can be in a synchronous format, an asynchronous format. You can use the videos, you can deliver it yourself. These materials are really intended to help supplement deep content knowledge in the areas we have available. We also have a few other faculty-based resources. We know it's really important that regardless of whether or not you are teaching a clinically based course, that you are providing practice-based opportunities for teachers. So we do have available faculty tip sheets that talk about ways that within your courses, even if again, they are not in clinical settings, you can increase practice-based opportunities for your teachers through methods like video analysis, micro-teaching, virtual simulations, and lesson study. We also have quite a few NCII resources that could be used with it by faculty within a preparation context, but are not necessarily geared toward faculty. These tend to be some of our more popular resources, and I do want to highlight some of them before we go on. We have data-based individualization introductory modules. Again, these are not specifically tailored for pre-service teachers. These are available on our website for a number of audiences, including teachers, to just use for professional development purposes out in the field. But these could very easily be integrated and embedded within teacher preparation coursework. So we have a very nice interactive module that provides an introduction to intensive intervention, a module that goes very deeply into those 5 steps of DBI, that graphic I showed you, and an overview of the intensive intervention taxonomy, which is essentially a framework that teachers can use to intensify and adapt interventions. So all of these provide really great introductory material that could easily be adapted and embedded within pre-service teacher coursework. Perhaps one of our most popular resources are NCII tools charts. Again, these are not specifically geared toward faculty. These are intended for a broad audience. We have a lot of families who use these. We have a lot of classroom teachers who use these. And the purpose of the tools charts is to help all of these stakeholders be informed consumers about interventions and screening and progress monitoring tools. So we maintain a number of tools charts that deal with both intervention and assessment. So it's essentially a consumer guide where we have vendors of various products related to interventions or screening tools or progress monitoring tools who submit their tools to us for review. We include them in essentially what is an online consumer guide where you can go to learn more information about the research base behind them, what kinds of features these programs have, et cetera. And it helps teachers make informed decisions about what they're using in classrooms. So we maintain these in both academics and behavior for intervention tools, screening tools, and progress monitoring tools. And this is definitely something that faculty that I work with integrate within their teacher preparation coursework all the time. They have their teacher candidates interact with these tools charts to dive deeply into the research behind these interventions, go through that process of thinking critically about, is this intervention or screening tool the right one for my context? And I've seen faculty integrate the use of these tools within their courses in some really creative ways that help their candidates think critically about how they actually implement these things in a classroom setting. We also, another popular resource that we have are sample lesson plans. These show how in the areas of literacy, math, and also behavior supports, teachers can provide intensive intervention at that tier 3 level for students with intensive behavioral and academic needs. Within each of these areas, it breaks it down into specific skills. So within literacy, there are lessons about things like phonics or how to introduce new vocabulary or how to improve reading comprehension. So there's really a wealth of resources here showing these very detailed scripted sample lessons of what tier 3 intervention looks like within all of these areas. And it goes without saying, we are huge fans of the IRIS Center at NCII. We frequently recommend IRIS Center resources, some of related to intensive intervention, some of which were co-developed between the IRIS Center and NCII. There is an IRIS Center really excellent 2-part module on intensive intervention. First is about using database decision-making and then collecting and analyzing data. That is a really great resource that, again, I know everybody who's on here is a big fan of IRIS, as we are. Very easy to integrate within the context of teacher preparation coursework. And there are also additional IRIS Center modules on progress monitoring. That's a very, very popular one. And as evidence-based practices, how you interact with those, select them, and adapt them. So that is my very brief outline of some resources. I want to do, before we go into discussion groups, a quick plug for upcoming faculty communities of practice. I gave you a really high level overview of resources we have available, but we also do provide support to help faculty members go deeper into these resources. And the way we do that is through communities of practice. So the purpose of these communities of practice is to help faculty explore strategies for integrating DBI content into the design of their courses. We have groups of about 20 to 30 faculty members who meet regularly for a period of about 8 weeks. These are virtual sessions and work collaboratively through some of these issues within intensive intervention, misconceptions that their students are facing, how they go about integrating DBI content within their courses or clinical experiences. And it's a really great session. These are really great sessions. We have guest speakers come, and all of this work culminates in a final project where faculty are working together to modify and adapt either a course syllabus or a course artifact, demonstrating how they have integrated intensive intervention content and NCII resources within their preparation experiences. We ran a group last summer. We will be running more in 2023, so please stay tuned for future opportunities. You can find those on the NCII website at intensiveintervention.org. So thank you so much for allowing me to give, again, what was a very, very brief overview of our resources. I am happy to talk about them more, happy to have you put anything in the chat pod that you want me to talk about more, and we can continue our discussion.